Those are the perks of having a tailor and a healer just on hand. But we had to leave a little bit, you know. You don't want
Chick stick scars.
Chick stick scars.
Hi, I'm Kit Young. We are the cast of Shadow and Bone, and welcome to Entertainment Weekly's Around the Table.
So, at the start of season 2, we find Alina. She's finally accepted her responsibility. She knows who she is. She's a sun summoner. And she is hellbent on finding the mythical amplifiers to help her take down the fold. So she's off on a journey with Mal to find those.
The Crows arrive back in Ketastam very much on the back foot, having failed in their mission to steal and bring Alina Starkov back to Dreesen. They're just they've got their heckles up.
Yeah.
They're ready for what's going to come next, and plenty gets thrown their way.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. I think, no spoilers, but immediately we're in trouble from our first scene.
Yeah.
So we're in big trouble.
General Kirigan is without any of the friends status or manners that he was abusing in the first season, and he is wrestling with his newfound shadow demons, and he's not a happy bunny.
He's not a happy bunny.
Longer near the beginning, where we surreptitiously added in a scene near the beginning of the second season where we tried to heal the scars so they become a little bit less gruesome.
They're very good at that,
More
aren't they?
representative. Yeah, more representative. Those are the perks of having a tailor and a healer just on hand. But we had to leave a little bit, you know. You don't want
Chick stick scars.
chick stick scars. You want a little black kitty scratch across the face.
There was a certain pressure with the first season because we're creating a whole world from scratch, really. Not just us, but obviously everyone. Now we know what we're aiming for. As much as it felt like a new season, new story, new people, these things, what was really great was when I saw the first bits of season 2, I was like, oh, it's like episode 1 of season 2 is episode 9. It really just continues.
Yeah.
And that felt really reassuring because at least I think we all know what we're in now and how we fit as pieces of that puzzle. And although there are brand new pieces and, you know, it's all kind of moving in a different way, I think we all kind of felt empowered to continue on the path that we had started.
There felt a lot of pressure in the first season, I think, also because a lot of the scenes were painted straight out of the books.
Yeah.
And so you could almost read chapters on, particularly in the Shadow and Bone side of the story, you could read chapters on the way to work and know you were doing that scene. And so you wanted to kind of, there felt like a little pressure on getting it right as opposed to just sort of creating something. And I think in the second season, it's sort of veering a little bit more off course, and you're kind of making these characters are becoming what they're becoming in the show version a little bit. So it alleviates some of that. It gives you a little bit more freedom.
You are Alina Starkov.
Will you help us tear down the fold?
Well, you couldn't do it with one amplifier.
I need the power of all 3. We must find Firebird and the Sea Whip. Take their power. Finish what you started.
Yeah, I was quite lucky, actually. You saying that's making me think, because I feel like Alina being, you know, like a first-person perspective protagonist from the books, I think there was actually less pressure on me to play Alina because everyone's Alina is very different, whereas I think all the rest of you have a lot more, you know, the character's so idiosyncratic, they've got very specific traits, whereas I think Alina's a bit more of a blank slate in which the audience can imagine themselves. So, and also, going into season 2, I think we knew it was going to be very different from the books, and for me that was quite exciting because that's what I like about adaptations. You know, they're taking what's really good in the books and changing it. So I think there was a bit of pressure to please the fans, but also show them something new, like a remixed version of all their favourite books.
The 3 of us discovered this really great rhythm and dynamic in the first one, and then they throw it off course in the best way, you know, because that's exactly what happens. This is a little found family, but it's expanding and growing, and there are growing pains, and Kaz and Nina have this whole butting heads thing, and then we've got Wesper and all of that stuff, and Inej, I think, finds a kind of sort of soulful friend in Nina. So it's all in some ways the three are being pulled apart because there's this added stuff, but I think it does that kind of elastic band thing of coming apart and then snapping back together really tight when they find their rhythm.
Very good.
Thank
analogy.
you.
Yeah. The main thing was that for us three, like the way that lots of our scenes would work, there was sort of a formula to it. You know, there's a lot of in season 1. There's a lot of like us conspiring in various dark rooms about what we're doing, and it's like, okay, so Kaz says this, and then there's a response from Inej, and then I'll say something kind of quippy, and we kind of know what it is, and it was working really well. And then suddenly the scene looks completely different, and how you fit into it, like we're forced to adapt. What was great is that, you know, our kind of new recruits came with their A game and really, really care. Yeah. So we had to match it all the time. It was lots of fun, and it was throughout the season constantly changing as well.
I'm your demolitions man.
You've got all your fingers.
Well, maybe I'm careful.
Careful is something you learn from losing your fingers.
I'm notorious for just having Six of Crows on repeat as the audiobook, just because every single time I do listen to it, I always pick up something different. But I think knowing that it was a new season, I knew that there was going to be just more parts of Inej that I hadn't explored yet. So it just comes with a fresh mind, but having trusted that you've been in this character for, you know, a good amount of time. But things I like to do, obviously get back into the gym.
Things I like to do. Brilliant.
And just before filming, actually, from last season, I got to keep Inej's boots. So I like to keep my character's shoes, if I can, or just steal them. So I put them on, and in my house just kind of walked around, and it just helped familiarise myself with where I was at the end of season 1.
Episode 1 of season 2 really does feel like episode 9. We follow straight on, and there's not a huge time jump. So I was literally wearing the same clothes on the first day of shoot. For the first scene in episode 1, I'm wearing the same clothes that I was in the last scene of episode 8. So going back to film season 2, I was a little bit nervous that I didn't have a ritual that I could lean on, or a little physical tick that I could go, okay, great, I'm back, I'm in. But actually, as soon as we put on the clothes and I stood in the middle of these two, it just felt very right that we were back, and it felt kind of easy.
This is my first experience of returning to a character ever. I've never done a season 2 or a sequel. Every job I've done is like, when it's done, it's done. And so I was a little bit nervous about that, also because we were over 2 years from when we finished shooting the first season to when because we did it all pre-COVID, the first season, and this was a new era in every way. And so for me, I went back to, I like to make playlists for my characters. I always have like a music playlist, and so I had to hunt through the years and find it. And then once I had it, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of get what this is. But really, it is, as you were already saying, like it's because we're part of such a tight kind of group thing on this side of the story. It was like, oh well, that's Kaz and that's Inej. I guess I'll be Jasper today. And so that kind of really kind of just made it quite simple and straightforward.
Yeah, I also do the soundtrack playlist thing. Well, it was more that, I guess, Alina in season 1 has like a piece of music that I felt very much captured for me, her sort of like emotional knot, as it were, within her. So like, that was quite helpful to like go back and listen to the piece of music. Yeah, that was probably the only thing for me, was just revisiting that and going, oh yeah, that's how she's feeling. Okay, cool, got it.
Actually, this is the third time I've come back to a character. And each time I feel like I was actually coming back. I think Kirigan actually is probably the most different between episode 8 and episode 1 of season 2, because his world has shifted the most. You know, most people either think he's dead and he has no allegiances left. Everything is shattered for him, so he is quite immediately different, I think. I don't really, as a person, really lead with sort of venomous rage as my number one character trait, so I think I probably do a lot of quite distracting, grunting and screaming before takes to kind of like boil it up so that I can then ignore it. Really, I think is I got into this bad habit of sort of growling before the word action.
Yeah.
Which is to the chagrin of probably anyone in a scene with me. But luckily, a lot of my scenes are by myself. So there you go.
I wasn't in any scenes with you. I still heard it from
other sounds.
I was like, oh.
The Darkling has created an unkillable army made of shadow.
Kerrigan damned this country into darkness. I have to destroy him.
It was a little bit trusting, and actually, when I watched it, some of it was not how it was described to me.
Yeah.
I think they look quite demonic. They feel representative of this kind of poisonous inner shadow in the way that they react. So they looked like how I felt, which I think was a nice surprise. Yeah, there was definitely some direction about that I thought they would sort of erupt from inside my body, and they sort of seep through cracks in walls and things, which I think is probably a much better artistic choice made after the fact.
A lot of the time the Nichivoya were one of the stunt guys or several of them, and they would be in full green morph suits, which is funny anyway. And then also, I think for the height it was often, I don't know about you, but we often had like just a football on a stick to know how high they were. That was just great, being terrified of a sweet stunt man all dressed in green with a little ball on a stick.
But also, that's really funny when we get, like, because we had it on season 1 the first time when we cross paths with you guys, because you have so much kind of like power, CG, Grisha stuff going on, and we have much less. It was like, knife goes in wall, gun goes bang, lots of it was practical stuff we could do. And then when we came to your set, we were like, gosh, everything takes ages. And it's because of all of these different elements have to come together. And also, I remember there was a day
I do
when-
take a lot of pauses.
You do take a lot of pauses.
Very slow
Delivery. But I remember there was this one day when we just came to visit because it was the day when you first show your powers to the royal family. And Lee Bardugo, the author, had her cameo in that scene.
Oh, yeah.
And we came to watch, and it was like this big, majestic moment, but it was you stood there with your hair, and this guy with a little fan going, zoom, zoom, zoom. And we were looking at it going, gosh, that doesn't feel quite as amazing as you want it to be. But obviously, once it's all put together with the music in there, it's really fantastic. But it was us just grinning like, oh, yeah, our job's different from this.
Honestly, I hear that sound when I'm trying to sleep. Sometimes. Oh, no more, please.
What nightmare have we gotten ourselves into? I didn't realize you were patriots. Well, if you die, we don't get paid.
We have an incredible trainer, and he's worked with all of us. Gary, we love you. We love you so much.
Shout out to Gary.
Shout out to Gary. Gary Kiss. So it's a lot of physical training. I mean, I don't know the terms of it because I don't go to the gym. I just need Gary to be like, okay, so today you're going to be moving the ball from here, or you're going to be doing this. Sorry.
Hitting Jessie, punching
beating Jessie up, yeah.
But really, I think that stuff is important. But I think what's more important is the prep you do for, like, the research you do for the mindset of the character. Because if you have it in your head, it kind of just projects throughout your whole body. And training did help with that, actually.
Also, Amita is just incredibly good at picking up choreography for your fight scenes.
Really?
You are. I watched you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're so in your body. You're so good at it. And Inej has to do some really wild, fight scenes and little
You always look very
acrobatics.
balletic when you do any
You're
of that.
so graceful, honestly.
Thanks, guys.
It was late in season 2, and it's everybody is crossing paths and is clashing. There's a lot of main characters in the scene. And this is towards the end, and there were some characters that were getting lots of really intense direction because it's the finale. There's all this stuff, and our director knows us very well at this point. But he's going down the line and then gets to me, Freddie, and Jack, and everyone's been given fantastic notes. And he gets to us and goes, "And the crows are the crows," and walks away. And we were like, but what do we do?
Just crow.
It seemed like we had kind of been abandoned in that moment in a way, but actually it was trust that we know how to contribute and how to fit in with it.
That's really good.
But I do remember, I think you and I often share a lot of silent reactions together, and there was definitely a kind of okay. So that one rings true.
I promised that you and I would change the world.
That is never going to happen. I'll destroy the only thing you have left. price it demands until it is too late.
Yeah, it's not great.
I think
It's
there's
not great.
a lot of resentment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of resentment and bitterness, but there's still this nagging magnetism, this kind of comprehension of one in the other. Even down to the way that the costumes have been designed. My leather kefta this season had gold threads through it to represent the little piece of her that he carries with him. It's not quite that E. Cummings poem, like carrying her in his heart or anything, but like there is something that he recognises in her that he hasn't recognised for centuries, and he doesn't know where to put it now that he feels betrayed by her, because like all the best toxic villains, he's blaming everyone else but himself.
Where we left them at the end of season 1, Kieran is Alina's main op, and he treats her very, very badly. So Alina is kind of dealing with the fallout of that and the trauma caused by Kieran, whilst also having this weird connection. And also, I think in a way, because Alina feels so alone, and, she's walking out into the wilderness, essentially, not knowing what she's doing, and Kieran being a mentor figure to her in those moments where they do have these mind connection moments, against Alina's best efforts, she can't help but sort of listen to him as well.
On the Crow side of it, everything we did in season 1 was new for the show. We didn't really have extracts of the book that we were adapting. So we kind of all went in blind a bit in terms of once the release happened and what people really jumped in on, especially because even during the promotion and stuff, it wasn't quite clear how we were fitting into the story. And so everything was a surprise for people. So their responses in turn were like that. Obviously, the goat was massively unexpected.
Cultural reset. Yeah.
Reset. I mean, honestly, Milo the Goat was the breakout star of 2021.
Let's promise never to forget each other, Milo.
The stories are great, but I think the thing that is truly genius is all of the characters that are involved.
Yeah.
People really identify with all the characters. Just people calling you out in the street and stuff, and they know your character's name. Like, someone shouted at me across like Trafalgar Square, being like, "You're the gun guy!"
Guns!
And I was like, "That's dangerous."
Yeah.
But especially because he was wheeling a buggy with a baby in it. Yeah, I was like, "Whoop!" Public place, the police nearby. I was like, "Oh gosh!" But like people really, really have identified with these characters in really lovely ways, and I think that's been really heartwarming and always a very pleasant surprise.
I think for me it was the meetings of characters, the unexpected meetings from the Six of Crows duology to the Shadow and Bone books. It's these two meeting and having like a soulful moment. For book fans, that was always going to be important, but I think
you guys
that
had the face-off.
Yeah, the face-off and things like that. I never expected those moments to be so important to people.
Thank you so much for watching Entertainment Weekly's Around the Table. We are the cast of Shadow and Bone.